I'm going to demonstrate how to create an estimate using Rhino electrical estimating software. From the home page, I go over and click on the link called List Estimates. When I do, it navigates me to the estimate list. When you create estimates, this is where it stores them. If you want to work on one, you simply click on it, open it up, and work on it. In this case, I'm just going to create a new estimate. So I go over here and click the New button. Opens a new screen, and you have to test, rather I should say, you have to type in the estimate name. In this case, I'm just going to say it's a commercial project. Normally you type in maybe the address of the project or a description of the project, but I'm going to just name this one Commercial Estimate. There. Now next, if you want to type in a description of the project, you can. I oftentimes don't. If you want to type in the square footage, you can. Rhino has an analytic for that. It'll show you later. Again, I won't do that. In this case, I'm just going to click on the calendar here and set up the bid date. I'm going to say that this bid is due on the 1st of March. You can type in the bid time if you want. I won't do that in this example. Everything else you leave the same. I won't take time to describe this now, but this should be set at best discount. It's already defaulted that way. Again, I won't explain it. I'm just going to plow ahead and show you how this works. Click on the Save button, and now you've created a new estimate. Now, in order to start inputting materials, you must start by creating at least one section. Go down to the bottom right here, click on the New button to create a new section. Type in the section name. I'm just going to name the section Electrical. Now, you can name the section whatever you want. If you're breaking down your estimate into different sections, you might name one electrical and one fire alarm. I won't get into the different names of sections right now. I'm just going to create one and show you how to do it. Click the Save button to save it. And I just showed you how to create an estimate and a section. Next, you'll start inputting materials into the program. Once you create a section, the section appears at the bottom left here under section name. Now we're going to input the materials. The way it works with Rhino estimating software is you do a detailed material takeoff, meaning you write down a list of all the materials necessary to be installed on a project, and you input them into Rhino. Now you do that, you come over here and click Edit Takeoff in the electrical section. Click Edit Takeoff. When you do, it opens up a new window. On the left-hand side is where you locate the materials, and it'll populate to the right. Let me show you what I mean. Right now the product catalog is open, and you can see the different categories here, 4,000, 7,000, 8,000, and 9,000. Right now I'm going to show you how to input materials from the 7,000 category, which is titled Electrical, Material, and Labor. That means there's both material and labor, material prices and labor for the items in 7,000. I click on the plus sign next to 7,000. It displays a subcategory or a list of materials. You can see the different ones here: conduit supports, conduit fittings, conduit Ls, etc. I'm going to scroll down and input some unistrut parts. So I scroll down, I see 416 here. I click on strut rod and fittings. I'm going to unsquinch this. I'm going to move this line over. See how you get a better view of it there. Now I'm just going to say that I need some deep hole channel here. So I'm going to say I need 50 feet of it. So I click in this box by quantity and type in 50. I'm also going to say I need some threaded rod, some 3/8 rod. I scroll down here, I see my 3/8 rod. I'm going to say I need 40 feet of that. Type in the quantity here. Next I just click the Add button. When I do, it populates materials to the right on the page to the right there. I'm going to click Save. We'll have a different view of it here. There. Now I'm going to explain this. This is how Rhino inputs materials on the Takeoff page right here. Line 1 here is a description of the materials. It shows the UPC information, manufacturer, catalog number, and quantity. This is what's important. It shows a quantity of 50 feet. That's what I input. It shows the unit price here at $197.63 per hundred. Now you have to pay attention to what the unit of measure is here. Oftentimes the unit of measure, most often the unit of measure is set up just like you would buy the materials. If you bought a slotted channel or unistrut from a wholesale house, typically your invoice would look like this somewhat, with the unit of measure shown as per 100 feet. Now, the program shows the unit price and then it shows the extended price, meaning $98.82 is how much the 50 feet of unistrut cost. Next to the far right, the program is set up to have labor hours to install the material. The program is set up for 6.6 hours per 100 feet, or to install 50 feet, the program spits out 3.3 hours. Okay? It works. This is the way that the input works on each time that you input materials. Now, back to catalog 7000 here, there's other materials in here. As an example, let me just go in and add a conduit or an LB. I'm going to click on the plus sign next to 404. I click on 4041 conduits, and my conduits appear down here. Now, I'm going to use the example. I'm going to say that I have to input a 1-inch conduit, or oftentimes called LB in the trade name. I'm going to put in a quantity of 1. I'm going to scroll down here to find its cover. So here's the 1-inch cover and gasket. I put in one of those. I click the Add button. Again, it populates the materials to the right. It has a description, unit price, extended price, labor hours, and extended labor. And that's how you input materials from Product Catalog 7000. I'm going to demonstrate how to use assemblies in Red Rhino. I click the drop down where it says Wizards and select Assemblies. When I do, the assembly catalog populates down below that. You can see assemblies for fixtures, 4S boxes, switches, dimmers, receptacles on down here. Now go in here and try different assemblies. Just go input them, see what's included in the assembly so you understand. I'm going to input some receptacle assemblies. I click on the plus sign next to 14 receptacles. Now you can see the subcategory menu. It has receptacles plastic, meaning plastic plates. Receptacle stainless for stainless steel plates. Let me unsquinch this just a little bit. You see weatherproof assemblies, miscellaneous assemblies for receptacles, and masonry box assemblies. So I'm going to click on receptacles plastic. Again, it opens up the categories at the bottom left and populates the different assemblies. Now there's assemblies in here for receptacles, specification grade, spec 1, spec 2, and standard. I'm going to scroll down to assembly number 6. This is an assembly that's used quite frequently in electrical. It's a standard plug or duplex. I'm going to put in a quantity of 5 of these. I'm going to pretend I'm estimating and have to add 5 plugs. These are the single gang version. Now I'm going to do several assemblies at the same time here, and I'll show you the results when I'm done. I'll scroll down to assembly number 12. I happen to know that that assembly there is your quad outlet. See the description? 2 duplex. That means quad. I'm going to say there's 7 of those. Right below that is the GFI outlet assembly. Let's say I have 4 of those. I click in the box and type in 4. Now, to make an observation here for your sake, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. See how the program has isolated ground assemblies in here? Number 15. I'll keep going down. At the bottom here, it has cut-in assemblies. See the assemblies? These are cut-in. Here's your specification grade for receptacles with cut-in boxes, etc. Now I won't input those right now, but try them out on your own. Here's your GFI cut-in, isolated ground cut-in. Okay, now I scroll back up to the top. I click the Add button. I already input the quantities. It populates over to the right. Now before I save this, I want to explain something. If you want to, before you save, you can drill in here and change whatever you want. Notice how the program has the boxes open still before I click Save. If I want, I can go in and change the quantities of these boxes. Okay, I can change the price. I can change the labor hours. I'm just making an observation. I'm not going to make any changes, but I'm making an observation for your sake that you can do this. Now, let's just click Save, and I'll come back down to this line and show you what it did. Click the Save. I'm going to scroll down to line, I think it was 46 here. Now, this is the way Red Rhino displays assemblies. See on line 46 how it's a description of the assemblies, and the components in that assembly are lines 47 through 53. See this? Now, notice how the program or how the assembly contains 4S box, a 1-gang ring, a box mounting bracket, a receptacle 20 amp standard, a plate, and then it includes ground pigtails and red wire nuts. Now, since I input 5 of these, it included 5 boxes, 5 rings, 5 mounting brackets, etc., and eventually 15 wire nuts. Now, that was the standard grade assembly. If I scroll down a little bit here, this is my quad assembly right here on line 55. That's a description of the assembly. The components of the assembly are down below. Now, notice how it input a 4S box, a 2-gang ring, box mounting bracket. The program included 2 receptacles per assembly. There was 7 plugs, and it input 14. There was a quantity of 7 assemblies with 14 receptacles. Again, it adds the plastic plate, the pigtails, and the wire nuts. Now, scrolling down here, finally, we input a GFI receptacle assembly. Line 64 is a description of that. The components are below that. Now, I want to explain something here. When you're using Red Rhino, you locate the assemblies that you want to use and input them. In order to feed these with Conduit, I use the Conduit wizard. Okay, I'm going to save my work here, and I'm going to go back and demonstrate how to use the fixture assemblies. Now, I click on the plus sign next to fixtures. It displays a list of fixture assembly subcategories here. Notice there's recessed fluorescent fixture assemblies, surface, recessed incandescent, surface incandescent, exit and emergency fixtures, and outdoor fixtures. The program has almost any fixture assembly you can imagine. I'm going to click on recessed fluorescent fixtures, and notice it populates a list of assemblies down here. Now, the most popular ones, or the most common ones I should say, are probably assemblies 101 and 102 here. There's a 2x4 fluorescent lay-in. I'm going to just pretend and input that I have to, or I'm going to pretend that I have to estimate 10 of these. I'll put in a quantity of 10, and I have some 2x2s. I'm going to put in 4 of those. When I do, I click Add. The program populates the materials to the right. Now, I'm going to save this before I describe it, just so it looks better. I'll scroll down to the bottom. This is where it input the materials. Notice how the program added the fixtures here. Now, notice that there's no pricing for these fixtures. You have to get them quoted. All your fixtures, you input them for labor only, but you have to get them quoted. So I'll show you where to input your quotes or quoted materials later. See how the assembly includes, again, here's the description, line 73. Here's the fixture with labor. Now, this assembly includes lamps. Let me make a caveat statement here. Oftentimes when I'm estimating or bidding projects, the lighting fixtures are quoted by the material vendors. So when I get the fixtures quoted, I also have them include lamps. I usually delete this line. In a while, I'm going to explain how to delete items in here, but for now, you just click on it, you click the delete button, click save, scroll back down, and you'll notice that the lamps are gone. Now, back to the assemblies here. This assembly included the fixture, what they call earthquake or hanger wires. It included a 4-foot whip and some wire nuts. The 2x2 here, we see the lamps here. I would delete those. I won't do it right now, but I would delete those. It includes the fixture. It has labor for the fixture. Again, no materials. It has the wires or support wires. It has the whip and the wire nuts. Again, that's how you input or use the fixture assemblies. Let me move this over a little bit. Next is the switches. I'm just going to demonstrate how to use the switch assembly here. Click on the plus sign for switches. You go through the menu tree. I'm going to click on frame, 20 amp. Click on the plus sign. And now it has standard grade. That's what I'll do. I'll click the plus sign next to standard grade. And here it says standard PL frame, means plastic plates, or stainless steel plates with frame. Frame means open wall. I click on this. The program displays assemblies for different switches. Notice how the first assembly here is a 1-gang switch, a 2-gang switch, a 3-gang switch, a 4-gang switch. When I'm doing my material takeoff, I just count my switches. I write down how many 1 gang, 2 gang, 3 gang, clear up to 6 gang switches here. Now I'm going to input them like I would if I was really doing a job. Let's say that I counted and there were 22 1 gang switches, and there's 14 2 gang switches. There's 3. See me typing those numbers in to the quantities. 3 of the 3 gang switches. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. I happen to know that the 3-way switches are down here. I'm going to say that there were 2 2-gang 3-way switches here. Now I just scroll back up to the top. I click Add. When I do, it populates the materials at the right. I click Save to save my work. Now if I scroll down, we'll see where these assemblies landed. A switch assembly has the 4S box. In this case, 4S box, a 1-gang ring, box mounting bracket. It has the switch. It has the plate. Has a ground pigtail and some wire nuts. And scrolling down to the bottom here, there's the components here. Let me click this arrow here. There. Here's the components at the bottom here. Here's more of the assemblies that were input. Again, this is how you use assemblies. Go in and try them out for yourself and just find out what assemblies are in the program. About 85% of your input is going to be using either assemblies or wizards when you're using Red Rhino software. I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Conduit wizard. I click on the Wizards button. Notice how it displays the different wizards. Now, try these wizards out. There's lots of different ones. I'm going to show you how to use the Conduit wizard. I click on the Conduit wizard and I see a pop-up here. Now I'm going to show how to use the Conduit wizard, I should say, to input 4 different types of conduit. I'm going to start with PVC. Notice that the program is already, the conduit type here is set up for PVC already. I'm going to go click the size drop down and I'm going to select 4-inch PVC. Now always click the Find button when you're done. I don't have to click EMT fittings here because I'm not inputting EMT, so I'll just click Find now. When I do, it'll populate the conduit type below Products here. Next I'm going to select the conduit application. I click the drop down and I see that the conduit application has different items listed in here. Exposed plus 10 means the conduit's exposed above 10 or installed above 10 feet off the floor. Exposed plus 20 means the conduit's installed above 20 feet. Now keep in mind the program has labor built in to install conduit at different applications. So the program has more labor built in for exposed plus 20 than exposed plus 10. Now in the PVC case, I'm going to select underground for the application. When I do, it populates the conduit application at underground. Next, I drill here into the total length of all runs, and that description is exactly what it means. If I have several runs of conduit of 4-inch, I'm going to put in the total footage of all the runs put together. In this case, I'm going to say that I took off or rolled off the conduit off the blueprints, and I have a total of 230 feet. Type in 230. It asks for the number of runs. I'm going to say that it was 2 separate runs. Next, I'm going to input the conductors for the conduit. I click the wire drop down and it displays different wire sizes. Now in this example, I'm going to say that I'm inputting 350 MCM copper here. So I click on the drop down, select my 350 MCM copper or 350 copper, see you there. I go to the right where it says number of conductors. I'm going to say this is a 4-wire system. I'll type in the quantity of 4. Next, I'm going to simulate or imagine that there is a ground wire in there. So again, I click on it. I select the ground wire. Let's say the ground wire is size 1/0. I select that, go to the right, put in a quantity of 1. Now, when you're inputting feeders or when you're inputting, let me say it different. When you input wires in the conduit, you must change the wire makeup length. The wire makeup length sometimes is called pull-out length. It's the amount of wire you want to extend beyond the end of the conduit to go to the termination point. In this case, I'm going to type in 7 for 7 feet. Okay? Now, when you're inputting feeders, you also want to input the 90s. So when you do your material takeoff, you have to count your 90s or your radiuses here. So I'm going to say that there's a total of 6 elbows or radiuses or 90s in the runs, in all the runs. Now also, the program defaults on PVC, it shows the interim spacers every 8 feet. I'm going to say that we're not going to use interim spacers in this example, so I'm going to change that to 0. Next, I go up to the top, I click Add, and I'm going to close the Conduit Wizard pop-up just to show what the input is here. I'll click Save to save my work. I'll squinch this over so we can read it. Now, I'll scroll down and show you what was input here. See how the program input the 4-inch conduit, the PVC, the couplings, terminal adapters. It put in the sweeps, and it put in the total footage of wire needed. Notice how it put in 1,032 feet of wire. Next to that, it shows the cost per 1,000 feet of that wire, which in this example is $5,688.53 per 1,000. It shows the extended price, it shows the labor to pull the wire per 1,000 feet, and the total labor to input, or rather to pull all the wire. Again, the labor. I'm going to click Save here. Now I'm going to go back to a different example on the Conduit Wizard. Next, I'll go back and click the Conduit Wizard again. Move this line over. Okay, I click on the Conduit Wizard, resurrect it here. Next, I'm going to input feeders. I'm going to imagine that I did a material takeoff of the job and I had to input some 2-inch EMT feeders feeding 200 amp panels. I click the drop down, I select EMT. Next, I go to the right here and I click the size drop down and select 2-inch. Notice they have all different sizes here. Click on 2-inch, and next I'm going to set the EMT fittings here. I'm going to set it to set screw steel. Notice that the fittings, there's different types of fittings. There's set screw, die cast in steel. There's weatherproof, which is your compression connectors and couplings. There's also set screw insulated throat and weatherproof insulated throat. Again, I'm going to select set screw steel and click Find. Always click the Find button when you're finished at the top. Now, in this case, I'm going to click the drop down and select Expose plus 10. I'm going to imagine the conduit is to be installed above 10 feet off the floor. Next, I drill in here and put in the total length of all runs. Click in the total length of all runs box. I'm going to say that there's 140 feet total footage and that it's just one run. Go to the right number of runs, type in 1. I'm going to click the wire drop down. I'm going to find my 3/0 copper and select it. Next, again, I'm going to imagine it's a 4-wire system. Put in a quantity of 4. Oops. I'll change that to 1 here, down here. And then I'll set the drop down here for a number 6 ground. See my number 6 copper there? Set it there. So again, I have 4 3/0 and 1 number 6 ground there. Now, when using feeders, again, I'll always make sure I put my wire makeup. I'm going to change that to 7 feet. People have a different preference here. Sometimes you add 5 feet, 7 feet, depending on what you think you should add for makeup. Now, next I have to input my elbows. You can see the drop down here shows that the elbows, I have a choice of 90s or 45s. Now I'm going to leave it set at 90s. I'm going to go over here, and on my material takeoff I determined that there were a total of 4 90s needed, so I input a quantity of 4. The program defaults the spacer set up at 8 feet. I'm going to leave it that way. Now next I click the Add button, same drill. I'll close the Conduit Wizard pop-up so you can see what was input here. You can see that it input the conduit, couplings, connectors, supports. It input the elbows, the wire, the total footage needed here, and the number 6 ground. Again, I'm going to save my work. Okay. Next, I'm going to show how to input branch circuits. So back to the wizards, I click on Conduit Wizard. And I'm going to imagine that I'm installing a bunch of 3/4 conduit runs, what we call home runs or full boats. We're going to input a bunch of conduit runs. Let's say I'm running conduit out of several different panels, and they all have 5 number 12s in them. So I click the drop down, select EMT. I click the size drop down and set it for 3/4. I'm going to set the EMT fittings at set screw steel. You might use a different type. That's what I'm setting it for here. and click Find. Now, I set the conduit application at plus 10 feet. If it was higher, I'd select 20. I'm going to select expose plus 10 feet. I'm going to put in the total length of all runs. Now, keep in mind, again, you do a material takeoff and you input the materials here. I'm going to say that I rolled off or counted or measured off a total of 1,870 feet of conduit. And I counted the runs while I was rolling it off. I'm going to say that there were 22 of them. Okay, the program's default with number 12 stranded wire here. I'm going to go to the right in the number of conductors box and type in 5 for 5 number 12s. I'm going to change the makeup for branch to 3.5 feet. It's going to add 3.5 feet of extra wire coming out of both ends, all runs of conduit. Now with branch circuits, you don't input your elbows, you field bend them, so you don't input them here. Again, the supports are set up default at 8 feet. I just click the Add button, same drill. It populated the conduit, couplings, connectors, supports, and total footage of wire needed here. That's really slick. And I click Save. Now one more thing on Conduit Wizard, I'm going to show you how to input MC cable. Click on the little arrow to the right of Conduit Wizard. We'll get it popped up again. Now here's how you do MC cable. You click the drop down and select MC. Next you go over to the right where it says size, you click the drop down here, and at the bottom here you see different sizes or types of MC cable, 12.2, 12.3, 12.4, etc. I'm going to say I'm installing a bunch of 12.2 MC cable. Now MC cable is a lot simpler than other input. I'm going to set the application at plus 10 feet. When I say it's more simple, all I have to do is input the number of runs, rather the total length of all runs, and number of runs. So in this case, I'm going to say I have to install 1,500 feet, and I'm going to say the total number of runs is 32. Now that's all I need to do here for MC cable. I just click Add. I forgot to see that gave me a warning. I have to click the Find button at the top. Okay, I click Find. It should have saved everything else. Now I click Add. It populates the material at the far right, and click Save. So that's how you use the Conduit Wizard to input your conduits, PVC, feeders, branch circuits, and MC cable. In order to collapse the menu, what you do is you click on the little negative sign next to the number up here, and you'll see that the menu collapses. Now I'll show you how to input materials from 8,000. 8,000 is named electrical labor only. These are materials that you normally get quoted. Red Rhino doesn't have material pricing for items such as panels, switch gear, lighting fixtures, etc. You get those quoted from your wholesale vendors. But it's necessary to input those materials to capture the labor to install them. I'm going to show you how to input some panels here. Click on Panels 11005. It populates the list at the bottom left here. I'm going to unsquinch this so that we can see it better. And I'll scroll down on this list real slow. See how it starts with 100 amp panels and then 225 amp panels? It has different descriptions. Again, we're just entering these for purpose of inputting labor. So I'm going to pick a couple panels here. I'm going to put in 100 amp main lug only 120 208 volt, put in a quantity of these. And I'm going to scroll down here and put in a 225 amp panel. I'll pick the 480 277 volt here, put in a quantity of 1. Same drill here. You click Add, it populates materials to the right. I'm going to click Save to save my work here. You'll notice that on the descriptions here from 8,000, it says panel, 100 amp panel, a description, and then it says see quote. See quote is a reminder to you that there's no material pricing in this. Again, you'll notice if I go over here to the right, it shows a quantity of 1 panel. It shows 0 materials. I get those quoted at my wholesale house. And then over here on the right, it shows the labor to install each of the panels. Next, I'm going to input circuit breakers. You must input your circuit breakers in Red Rhino software to capture the labor for termination. Again, I scroll down the list under 8,000. I happen to know that they reside at 11015. So I click on circuit breakers here, 11015. It populates a list of circuit breakers at the bottom. Now Red Rhino has circuit breakers from 1 pole 15 amp clear up to 3 pole 4000. If you scroll the list down here, you see the 1 poles, the 2 pole breakers, clear up to 3 pole 4000 amp. So anytime you guys have to install a circuit breaker in the field, or I should say terminate one, you input them here. Now I'm just going to input a handful hypothetically. I'm going to say that I have a few different types of circuit breakers. I'm going to say I have 10 of these 1 pole 20s, and I'm going to scroll down to my 2 pole circuit breakers. I'm going to say I have a couple 2 pole 40s here. Now normally what I would be inputting this off my material takeoff, you understand. I'm not showing you that portion of it, I'm just showing you the input. I'm going to say I have 4 of these 2 pole 40s, and I'm going to say I have a couple of 3 pole breakers here too. There's a 3 pole 40 here. I'm going to put in one of these, and a 3 pole 50. Put in one of these. This is the way you do it. You input the quantities here all at one time. Click the Add button. It populates to the right. Again, save your work. So that's how you input materials from product category 8000. Next, I'm going to describe how to use the buttons at the top: Add Labor, Add Comment, and Add Product. Now, in order to place material input anywhere that you want on the page, whenever you click on a line and enter anything, the materials or whatever you enter will go above that line. In this case, I'm clicking on line 2 here, and I want my labor that I'm adding to go above that line. So I go to here and click the Add Labor button. Now the use of the Add Labor button is for stuff like demo. If you have to estimate demolition or removing electrical items, you have to figure out how long it takes to do that and manually input it here. Let's say in this case that I want to demo a panel. So I'll just type in a description, demo panel. And let's say I'm going to add 8 hours for that. So I'm going to put in a quantity of 1 here. And I go over to the labor hours column and type in 8, however many hours you want. Next, you save your work. So I'll click Save here, and you'll see that it saves the labor for demoing a panel. Now again, use the Add Labor button for stuff like trenching, backfill, and compaction. If you have somebody working on the back of a trencher or using a trencher for trenching, you calculate how many hours it takes, and you input it using the Add Labor button. Same example I gave you with demo. You figure out or calculate how long it takes to do demo on a project. You come in here and manually input it using the Add Labor button. Also, if you're moving large transformers or large panels from the truck or from the curb to the electric room, you'll want to calculate extra labor for that. If it takes 2 or 3 guys to move a big piece of switchgear, then you'll want to calculate how many hours that takes and input it here using Add Labor. Next is Add Comment. Oftentimes in my estimate, I have comments all over it for reminders. Let's say right here I see that I input a comment already. It says panels installed on 2nd floor. Now I'm going to click Save here, and it'll remove my highlighted line there. And let's just say that I want to add a comment here. I'll scroll down a little ways, and I'll just say, I'll click on line 24. I'll click Add Comment, and I'm just going to type in underground. And click Save. When I do, I'll scroll back down and see that I input a description right here on line 24. Okay, I'm going to click Save to remove the highlighted line again. Same if you want to add product. Now add product's a little bit different. You have to input multiple items, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to click on line 3, and I want to add product above that line. So I click the Add Product button. Next, I type in a description. Let's say that there's materials that aren't in Red Rhino that I want to add. Let's say it's a specialty light fixture. So I'm just going to say chandelier. I'll type in a description. Hopefully my spelling's correct. I'm going to put in a quantity of 1 here. And let's say that the chandelier costs $380. I'll type in 380 for the unit price. And I'm going to say it takes 4 hours to hang the chandelier. So I'll type in 4 for the labor column here and click Save. So again, when you use the Add Product button, you must input a description, a quantity, the unit price, and the amount of labor. So you populate all of those. And you have to determine what that is in order to input it. You have to know what the cost is for the materials. Okay? Now that said, I want to explain something. I already explained that when you click on a certain line and add materials that goes above that line, let me show you something else or explain something else. Let me say, for instance, that you want to, let's say, for instance, that you want to delete lines of material or edit them. So I'll show you that next. Let's say that you want to delete line items. One way you can do it is just by clicking on a single line, clicking the delete button, and it will delete that item. So let me show you. Let's say I'm going to delete this whole channel here. I already highlighted it, clicked on it, highlighted it gray. I click delete, you'll see that it disappears, and then I click save to save my work. You always have to click save and save your deletions. Now if I wanted to edit that line, I would have just clicked edit. Example, I'll click on line 8 here, which is rod. I click edit. And see how it opens up and allows me to type in or change any of the descriptions in the open dialog box. You can change the description here, the quantity, change the price or the labor. Now I click save to save my work here. Click save. You can also edit multiple lines. So I'm going to hold down the control button and I'm going to click on multiple lines. I'll hold down control. I'm going to click on several lines at one time. This message I see here is actually from Google Chrome. You won't always see that. But I'm just going to click on multiple lines here. And if I clicked delete right now, it would delete all these lines. But I'm just going to click edit. Might have to click it twice. And again, it opens up dialog boxes where I can edit multiple lines of material at the same time here. I always click save to save my work. Now one more quick example of how to do this. You can also hold down the Alt button and do this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on line 8. And let's say I want to edit items from lines 8 through 16 here. So I clicked on the line 8 first and highlighted it. I hold down the Alt button, click on line 16, and it highlights all the lines in between. If I wanted to delete all these materials, I would click the delete button and click save. But in this example, I'm going to show you how to edit it. You just click the edit button at the top. It opens up dialog boxes here. You can type in or change descriptions. Again, quantity, unit price, or labor. When you're all done editing, you click save to save your work. And that's how you edit line items in the material takeoff. Sometimes when you're estimating, let's say that you accidentally click on the Add Labor or Add Product button. I'm going to use Add Labor as an example. Let's say I click on here and I realize it was a mistake and I don't want to save these lines here. So what I do is, if I try, well, let me just show an example. If I try and save it, Red Rhino says description is a required field. So I just click OK. What I do is I click on line 4 over here and it highlights in gray. I'll hold down the control button on my keyboard, also click on line 5. I'm going to delete both of these lines. So I click the delete button at the top, click save, and that's the remedy for that. If you accidentally click, again, Add Labor or Add Product, it won't let you save unless you populate the fields. You simply delete the line.